Welcome to the Smart Move with SafeShip, where practical advice helps you plan smarter and move better. Now let's get moving.
So, when you buy a house, you negotiate by the square foot, right?
Yeah, exactly. Or like when you rent an apartment, you are filtering your search based on the floor plan.
Right. We are entirely conditioned to value our living spaces by their two-dimensional footprint. But the moment you decide to pack up that life and move it across state lines, the moving industry just completely strips all of that away.
They really do. I mean, they do not care if you live in a sprawling mansion or some cramped studio apartment.
No, they care about gravity, which is just wild. Today, we are taking a deep dive into why your worldly possessions are priced exactly like a commercial freight shipment.
And it's so important because, understanding that single shift in perspective can literally save you thousands of dollars.
Totally. So we have the perfect roadmap for this deep dive today. We are pulling from a really detailed guide and a moving weight calculator that was published by SafeShip Moving Services.
Right, and they are a licensed interstate moving broker, so they really understand the internal logic of how this industry calculates its prices.
Exactly. So our mission today is to look at the mechanics, the literal nuts and bolts of moving tariffs, truck scales, and estimates.
Because the moving industry operates on mechanics that feel, honestly, entirely opaque to the average consumer.
Well, completely. We all crave predictability when we move, but it usually feels like you just hand over the keys to your life and brace yourself for whatever terrifying number shows up on the final invoice.
Yeah, it is so stressful.
Mm-hmm.
But we are going to deconstruct that process today so you can use this insider knowledge to slash your moving costs and actually take control of your budget.
Okay, let's unpack this because the foundation of everything we're going to talk about really rests on that shift from square footage to mass.
It does. When you hire an interstate mover, your entire life is priced by its sheer physical weight.
Right.
I mean, that weight dictates the diesel fuel required to haul your goods across the country, the human labor calories burned carrying it all, and the wear and tear on the trucks.
And the Department of Transportation heavily regulates these carriers, right?
Yeah, exactly. Their entire tariff structure, which is the official document that dictates their pricing, is fundamentally anchored to weight.
So that represents a massive cognitive leap for anyone planning a move. The immediate challenge for a moving company is figuring out how heavy your house is before they ever load a single box.
Because they cannot just lift your house and put it on a scale.
Right. They need a baseline. So how do they get that?
Well, the industry utilizes a specific shorthand to establish that initial baseline. According to the SafeShip Guide, movers will generally estimate about 1,000 to 1,500 pounds per furnished room.
Okay, wow.
So if you apply that math to a typical three-bedroom home, including the living areas and kitchen, you usually land somewhere in the ballpark of 9,000 to 12,000 pounds.
That feels like a massive swing, though. I mean, a 3,000-pound variable on a three-bedroom house is a huge margin of error.
It is, yeah. But that variance exists because of a concept we can call belongings density.
Belongings density. Okay, I like that.
Yeah, the bedroom formula is just an architectural average. A minimalist who sleeps on a platform bed and keeps, a single modern dresser in their room is going to register entirely differently on a truck axle.
Oh, compared to someone whose bedroom features like a massive solid oak armoire and floor-to-ceiling bookshelves.
Exactly. The physical space is identical, but the density of the matter inside that space is just miles apart.
Okay, so using square footage or room counts to guess the weight is essentially like trying to guess the weight of a dessert just by looking at its size on the plate.
That is a great way to think about it.
Yeah, like a sparsely furnished 2,000 square foot house can actually weigh significantly less than a densely packed 1,200 square foot apartment.
Oh, absolutely.
It is literally like comparing a giant fluffy pastry to a small, dense block of fudge. I mean, the pastry takes up a lot of visual real estate, but the fudge is the thing that is going to break the scale.
I love that analogy. As we connect this to the bigger picture, the fudge block phenomenon is precisely why so many consumers experience huge sticker shock on moving day.
Because they assume their small place will be cheap to move.
Right. You might assume moving out of a small townhome will be inexpensive. But if that townhome contains heavy, solid wood furniture, older appliances, or serious collections, you are going to hit the absolute high end of that weight spectrum.
Like a massive library of hardcover books or a garage full of steel mechanics tools.
Exactly. You are paying a premium for density completely, regardless of your modest floor plan.
So if the room count is just the fluffy pastry guess, like a rough starting point, how do we get to a concrete number?
We have to move past the bedroom formulas.
Hmm.
We have to account for the actual mass of the things you sit on, sleep on, and use every single day.
Because if I am handing over a significant portion of my savings to relocate my family, I cannot just rely on a structural average.
No, definitely not. You have to look at the individual items. This is the itemized inventory phase, and it is the critical second step in the pricing mechanism.
And the numbers in the Safe Ship furniture planning chart really put this into perspective. I was looking at this, and a typical sofa sits between 150 to 300 pounds.
Oh yeah, they are incredibly heavy.
And a refrigerator is 200 to 400 pounds. Plus, a single carton of books, just one standard medium-moving box full of paper, weighs in at 40 to 50 pounds.
What is fascinating here is how quickly those specific localized items completely shatter that initial room-by-room formula.
Right.
Consider a kitchen and a spare bedroom. You might have a heavy wooden farmhouse dining table pushing 200 pounds paired with a full-size 400-pound refrigerator.
That is a lot of concentrated mass.
Yeah, just those two items in one room can literally outweigh an entire spare bedroom full of lightweight clothing, a flimsy particle board desk, and a mattress. The density is highly concentrated.
Let me play devil's advocate here, though. Meticulously logging every single mattress, every end table, and trying to predict exactly how many 40-pound book boxes I will pack sounds excruciatingly tedious.
It does sound like a lot of work.
Right. Why does the listener need to go through the pain of this hyper-detailed inventory? Can't the estimators just use AI to scan some photos of the living room or, do a quick drive-by?
The industry actually avoids those shortcuts for a very specific reason. Estimators do not rely on curbside guesses or quick photo scans because of what we can call the forgot the basement phenomenon.
The forgot the basement phenomenon. Okay, I am totally guilty of this.
We all are. We all have massive blind spots when it comes to our own accumulated clutter.
Yeah, we look at our living room and mentally catalog a couch and a television, but we completely block out the garage full of old paint pans.
Or the basement storage room packed with holiday decorations and old college textbooks.
Yeah.
We become completely blind to our own density.
That is so true. So the estimator's job is to see the things you have gone blind to.
Exactly. If an estimator just looks at the curb appeal or a stylized photo of your living space, they miss all of that hidden mass.
Right.
To get an accurate inventory that actually protects your wallet later, you require either a comprehensive in-home survey or a thorough virtual walkthrough where a coordinator physically guides you through the space over video.
Because they are trained to open the closets, ask about the attic, and look under the stairs.
Exactly. And the source also points out a really interesting mechanical detail about the packing process itself. Utilizing professional packing services can actually help keep your carton weights remarkably consistent.
Oh, that makes sense. Because the consistency of the packing directly impacts the accuracy of the estimate, right?
Yes, when professionals pop your home, they use standard carton sizes and distribute weight uniformly based on industry guidelines. They do not overpack a large box with dense books.
So because they pack to a standard, your initial volume and weight estimates stay much closer to the final physical reality of the loaded truck. So you do the comprehensive walkthrough, you face the music about the hidden density in your basement, and you generate this highly accurate, itemized inventory.
Right, that piece of paper is your baseline.
But how does an inventory list actually stop the final bill from skyrocketing when the truck hits the highway?
This brings us to the contracts.
Ah, the paperwork.
Yeah, the Safe Ship Guide makes it abundantly clear that the type of estimate you sign dictates exactly how much financial risk you are carrying. This is arguably the most critical operational knowledge for anyone planning an interstate move.
Because the estimate you sign determines the rules of engagement when your moving crook inevitably rolls onto a certified weigh station.
Exactly.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The guide breaks down 3 specific types of estimates, and the mechanics behind them are just fascinating.
They are very different from each other.
Let's start with the one that carries the most risk, the non-binding estimate. What is actually happening mechanically with this contract?
A non-binding estimate is quite literally just a planning number. It offers absolutely no financial cap.
Wow, none at all.
None. With this contract, your final invoice is determined entirely by the actual physical weight of the loaded truck on moving day.
So how does the operational mechanism work?
Well, before the moving truck arrives at your home, it drives onto a certified commercial scale while completely empty. The driver is usually required to step out, and the fuel tank is generally full to establish a baseline.
Okay, and this is recorded as the tare weight, right?
Exactly, the tare weight. So they get the baseline weight of the heavy machinery itself. Then they drive to your house and load up the fudge block.
Right. And then what happens?
Once your entire household is loaded, the truck drives back onto a certified scale to capture the gross weight.
So they just subtract the empty tare weight from the loaded gross weight?
Right, and the resulting number is the exact physical mass of your shipment. Under a non-binding estimate, you pay for every single pound of that final number based on the carrier's published tariff rate.
Which means if that final weight is higher than the initial planning number, you are entirely on the hook for the difference.
Every single penny of it.
I love an analogy, and a non-binding quote really feels like handing the movers an open bar tab at a wedding.
That is exactly what it's like.
You might think you know what your guests are going to drink, but if Uncle Bob starts ordering top-shelf whiskey, you are paying that final tally no matter how high it goes. You have zero ceiling on your financial exposure.
The open bar tab is a perfect parallel. If you underestimated your garage, or if you threw in an extra heavy dresser at the last minute because it didn't sell online, your bill spikes instantly.
You are just completely exposed to surprise upcharges.
And it is highly notable that SafeShip prioritizes transparency and explicitly states they prefer not to offer non-binding estimates for this exact reason. The consumer risk is simply too high.
That makes total sense. So let's contrast that with the second type, the binding estimate. How does this alter those scale mechanics?
A binding estimate disconnects your final bill from minor fluctuations on the commercial scale. It provides a fixed price based strictly on the agreed-upon itemized inventory you generated during your walkthrough.
So as long as the inventory list matches what you actually hand over to the movers on moving day, your price is locked.
Exactly, meaning you do not secretly sneak in extra boxes or appliances.
Okay, so even if the actual scale ticket comes in a few £100 heavier than the estimator guessed, you do not pay a penalty.
Right, it provides the predictability we were talking about earlier.
But then the guide introduces a third option, which it positions as the absolute gold standard, the binding not to exceed estimate.
Yes, the binding not to exceed estimate creates the ideal financial scenario for the consumer. It establishes a firm price ceiling based on your inventory.
Just like the standard binding quote.
Right, so you are entirely protected if the truck ends up weighing more than the estimate. The ceiling holds.
Okay, I'm with you.
However, if the truck rolls onto the scale and the actual physical weight comes in lower than the estimated weight, your bill is reduced to reflect the lower weight.
Wait, really? I need to push back on this because it sounds almost too good to be true from a consumer perspective.
I know, it sounds a bit crazy.
Why would a moving company ever offer a contract where they absorb all the financial risk on the high end, but willingly give up the extra profit on the low end? What is the business catch for the mover here?
It seems counterintuitive until you look at the business incentives. Moving companies operate in a highly competitive marketplace. Offering a binding not to exceed estimate is a powerful sales tool to secure the booking in the first place.
Oh, so it builds immediate trust.
Exactly. Beyond that, it dramatically reduces customer friction and disputes on delivery day. But perhaps most importantly, it aligns the incentives. It encourages the consumer to pack conservatively and accurately. The moving company would rather have a predictable shipment that allows them to efficiently plan their truck space for multiple loads rather than dealing with wildly unpredictable weight swings that throw off their logistics network.
That makes perfect sense. So if the non-binding quote is an open bar tab, the binding not to exceed quote is essentially a specialized gift card.
Yes, exactly.
You absolutely cannot be charged more than the limit loaded on the card, so you are totally protected on the high end. But if you end up spending less, if your belongings actually weigh less, you get to keep the change.
It rewards you for having an accurate or even slightly overestimated inventory without leaving your budget exposed to a catastrophic overage.
So what does this all mean? We have explored the mechanics, we understand the shift from square footage to mass, we know the hidden traps of localized furniture density.
And we know exactly which contract mechanism provides the best protection.
Right. The binding not to exceed. So how do we synthesize this insider knowledge to actively hack the system? What is the strategic math of actually reducing costs?
The ultimate cost-saving strategy requires action long before the estimate is ever signed. You must declutter before the survey coordinator ever evaluates your home.
Because if they see it, they document it.
Yes, if they document it, they weigh it. And if they weigh it, you pay for it.
We hear the advice to declutter all the time, but usually it is framed around peace of mind or organization. You are talking about a very specific, strategic type of decluttering.
Oh, absolutely. Throwing away a stack of old magazines or a lightweight plastic chair isn't going to meaningfully change a tariff based on thousands of pounds.
The strategic math requires you to ruthlessly target the dense items.
We have to revisit that furniture chart. If you're trying to lower your moving quote, you need to target the bulky furniture and the heavy appliances. You have to calculate the return on investment of moving an item versus replacing it.
Let's look at the financial physics of a 300-pound sofa. If you have an older couch that you could maybe sell at a garage sale for $50, you might think it is easier to just take it with you.
Most people do think that.
But if you are paying a hypothetical dollar per pound for your interstate move, keeping that couch actually costs you $300 in fuel and labor tariffs.
The math flips entirely. By selling or donating that heavy sofa and, say, a 400-pound older refrigerator before the survey, you drop your estimated weight by 700 pounds instantly.
You are actively engineering a lower baseline for your binding not-to-exceed estimate.
Exactly. Additionally, removing those bulky items drastically speeds up the actual loading and packing process on moving day, which reduces the labor hours the crew needs to spend at your property.
Now, there is a critical operational caveat to this entire weight discussion that the source highlights, which completely flips our strategy if a listener is making a different type of move.
Right, the container moves.
Everything we just unpacked applies to standard domestic interstate moves on traditional moving trucks. But what happens if someone is utilizing a container moving service or moving internationally over the ocean?
The rules of the physics engine change entirely. In the context of international shipping or containerized moving pods, the carrier is often charged by volume rather than strictly by weight.
So they are measuring the shipment in cubic feet.
Exactly. Their primary constraint is not the axle weight limit of a truck, it is the rigid physical dimensions of the steel shipping container.
Ah, so suddenly the giant, fluffy pastry analogy comes back with a vengeance. In a container move, the pastry is your biggest enemy.
It is the primary enemy. If you are being charged by volume, getting rid of heavy furniture still helps because couches and tables are inherently large.
But suddenly, the mass of the object matters far less than its spatial footprint.
Right. A dense, compact box of books is cheap to move by volume, but a giant, lightweight beanbag chair is incredibly expensive because it consumes so much cubic space.
That dictates an entirely different cost-cutting strategy. If you are paying by volume, compact packing becomes your most powerful weapon.
You need to disassemble dining tables so the legs lie perfectly flat, stack chairs efficiently, and aggressively eliminate empty pockets of air inside your moving boxes.
So you must ask your moving coordinator a very direct question right out of the gate, like, are you calculating this quote based on weight in pounds or volume in cubic feet?
Yes. The answer to that question dictates whether you focus on reducing mass or reducing spatial volume.
I have one final major operational question that naturally arises from all of this.
Sure.
If we assume a typical family is moving a 3-bedroom house and they hit that 10,000-pound baseline we discussed earlier, can we give a quick dollar per pound shortcut? Like, how much does a 10,000-pound move actually cost in the real world?
The definitive answer is no, and the source is explicitly clear about this reality. There is no honest, universal dollar per pound multiplier that you can use for back-of-the-napkin math.
Why is that? I mean, if the entire DOT tariff system is anchored to weight, shouldn't it function as a simple multiplication equation?
Weight is the engine of the cost, but it does not exist in a vacuum. The pricing algorithm includes several other massive variables.
Like what?
The most significant is distance, often referred to as the line haul charge. A 10,000-pound move from New York to neighboring New Jersey will cost a fraction of moving those exact same 10,000 pounds from New York to California.
Oh, right. So distance acts as a massive multiplier on the weight base. What about the physical environment of the homes themselves?
Those trigger what the industry calls accessorial charges. Are there flights of stairs at the destination? Is there an elevator that requires a reservation and padding?
Or, like, is the street too narrow for an 18-wheeler, requiring a smaller shuttle truck to ferry the goods from the highway to your front door?
Exactly. All of these logistical hurdles add specific fees on top of the weight-based line haul charge. Trying to calculate a DIY budget by simply multiplying your estimated pounds by some internet average will only lead to extreme frustration and financial vulnerability.
So the 10,000-pound figure just places you into a rough planning bracket, but the actual invoice relies on the specific logistics of your origin and destination.
Right. The only way to know the true actionable cost is to go through the comprehensive inventory process and secure a specialized quote from a licensed broker or carrier.
That is the only method that provides real financial security.
It truly is.
Well, that brings us perfectly full circle on the mechanics of relocation. When it comes to interstate moving, gravity is currency.
It is all about the mass.
By understanding the shift from floor plans to sheer mass, you gain the upper hand. By demanding a meticulous item-by-item survey, you eliminate the blind spots hiding in your basement.
And by pushing for a binding not-to-exceed contract, you legally cap your financial risk while preserving the opportunity for savings if the scale tips in your favor.
Plus, by applying the strategic math of decluttering, targeting the heaviest fudge blocks in your home before the estimator arrives, you actively manipulate that final tariff. You stop being a passive participant hoping for a good price, and you take structural control of your moving budget.
This raises an important question, though, a philosophical one that builds directly on these mechanics.
Oh, I like the sound of that. What is the question?
If moving companies price the contents of our lives quite literally by the pound, it forces the level of reflection we rarely engage in during our daily routines. If you had to pay a literal upfront weight tax on every single physical object you brought into your home, knowing you would eventually have to pay a toll on its mass every time your life transitioned into a new chapter, how would that change the way you value your possessions today?
Wow, that is a staggering thought to end on. Would we really purchase that massive solid oak dresser if we internalized a freight cost attached to its mass?
Probably not.
It forces you to look at the physical objects surrounding you right now through an entirely different lens. Maybe you do not need to haul those heavy gardening tools across 3 state lines after all.
Exactly.
Well, hopefully, armed with these strategies, you can confidently navigate the way stations, secure a contract that protects your budget, and actually get a good night's sleep before the moving truck arrives. You have the blueprint. Catch you on the next deep dive.